Well, Sir Ashley Bloomfield, that name is a blast from the past, isn't it, wants to make New Zealand the best place in the world to have herpes. Everybody clap. So according to a report in both Radio New Zealand and the New Zealand Herald, it says this: Sir Ashley Bloomfield, alongside Sir Graham Henry, Sir Buck Shelford, boxing champ Mia Motu, comedian Angela Dravid, Dame Sue Bagshaw, and Real Housewives of Auckland star Anne Batley-Burtlin, he's fronting a campaign for the New Zealand Herpes Foundation. The household names are teaming up to explain what herpes is, how common it is, whether you need to be worried or feel awkward about it, and how to help fight the stigma associated with the sexually transmitted infection, STI. Yes, no longer STD. Disease sounds so negative. Infection means it's not your fault, hey? Up to 80% of New Zealanders will get genital or oral herpes at some stage in their lives, but research shows most of us are too afraid of judgment to talk about it. 80%. 80% of New Zealanders have an STD? Really? But there's different types, and we'll come back to that because that's the key point here. A survey conducted by researcher TRA on thousands of people around the world showed that more than a third of Kiwis believed they would be treated differently by their friends and family if it was known they had herpes. Believed. Well, that's not actually really a measure about your hurty feelings or embarrassment or possible consequences of your actions. That doesn't mean you'll be treated differently, does it? I mean, maybe in your head. That's despite the fact that 26.8% of women and 17.3% of men in New Zealand will have genital herpes by the time they're 38. However, more than 80% of people with herpes won't have any symptoms at all. Hang on, first they said 80% of us, and now it's down to 27% of females and 17% of men, but until they're 38. They seem to be sort of mixing a few statistics here, so let me check. And so I went to Johns Hopkins Medicine, and they said herpes infections are very common. 50 to 80% of American adults have oral herpes, which causes cold sores or fever blisters in or around the mouth. Genital herpes affects 1 out of every 6 people in the US, aged 14 to 49. So there's the important distinction. Oral herpes can occur at any stage of life, including childhood. Genital herpes is spread almost exclusively through sex. In the United States, infections are mainly seen after age 19. So that's quite a significant point, isn't it? And when they say up to 80% of New Zealanders will get genital or oral herpes, they're correct. But the causes and the consequences are very different. But they're out to muddy all that. Anyway, back to the Radio New Zealand campaign, or the New Zealand campaign, or our New Zealand's campaign. Sir Ashley Bloomfield says the shame associated with herpes could have a profound psychological impact on many and can leave people feeling isolated. The problem is not people, the problem is the virus, he said. And we need to focus on the virus rather than making people feel bad about the fact they've had an infection. 30% of all Kiwis diagnosed with the herpes virus experience depressive or suicidal thoughts. This is a problem we can solve, which is pretty rare these days. Let's make New Zealand the best place in the world to have herpes. Now, note, what Mr. Bloomfield doesn't say is whether he can prove the depression and suicide is from the STD. The article continues, and I will come back to that point in just a minute. The Herpes Foundation's Elena Luxmore, who got herpes herself in her late 30s, says that for most people, the shame of having herpes is worse than the symptoms of the virus itself. She said, every day we speak with people dealing with feelings of shame, self-loathing, and social isolation. People who are finding their sex lives and dating lives disrupted. And for what? Not from any physical impact from the infection, but from the shame and stigma that we as a society associate with this diagnosis. No physical impact. Nope, it's that nasty stigma, the hurty feelings. So let's just do a little fact check on what we've just heard. And firstly, John Hopkins. I hopped onto the John Hopkins medicine website and found this. In the United States, about 1 in every 6 people aged 14 to 49 have genital herpes. Genital herpes. So now we're down to 17%, not the 27% of females as this New Zealand campaign is suggesting, but we are the capital, remember. And remember, the 80% that they quote includes all form of herpes, including cold sores that even kids can get. Yeah, there's 2 types of herpes simplex virus, HSV1 and 2. HSV1, oral herpes, cold sores. This virus can show up as an upper respiratory tract infection during early childhood, and HSV2 is the cause of most cases of genital herpes. But they can interchange. One can cause the other. But look, here's the key bit that I want to show you. What causes genital herpes? Good question. I'm glad you asked. You can catch genital herpes by having vaginal, anal, or oral sex with someone who has the disease. So that would make it a sexually transmitted disease, wouldn't it? And then it goes on, how does genital herpes spread? Herpes can be spread when an infected person has lesions, blisters, open sores on their body, or when you do not have any symptoms. Taking antiviral medicine can help you reduce the risk of spreading genital herpes to your sexual partners. How common is genital herpes? According to the CDC, approximately 40 million to 50 million adults in the United States have genital herpes. HSV2 infection is more common in women and people who have had more than 5 sexual partners. Yes, more than 5 sexual partners. Do you think the stigma and the depression might just be a result of sexual promiscuity and the consequences? Just maybe? Now, I also checked out the CDC, which is the US's version of the Ministry of Health here in New Zealand. And the CDC says this: herpes sores usually appear as 1 or more blisters on or around the genitals, rectum, or mouth. This is known as having an outbreak. The blisters break and leave painful sores that may take a week or more to heal. Flu-like symptoms, fever, body aches, swollen glands may also occur during the outbreak. But didn't the Herpes Foundation say there was no physical impact, just the nasty stigma and those hurty feelings? The CDC goes on to say this: how can I prevent genital herpes? Good question. The only way to completely avoid STIs is to not have vaginal, anal, or oral sex. If you are sexually active, you can do the following things to lower your chances of getting genital herpes: being in a long-term mutually monogamous relationship with a partner who does not have herpes. Wow, that's pretty radical. Using condoms the right way every time you have sex, but be aware that not all herpes sores occur in areas that a condom can cover. And the site also warns, and this hints at why the stigma against STDs might be important. It has a section that says, I'm pregnant. If I have genital herpes, how can I protect my baby from getting it? And it says this: if you are pregnant and have genital herpes, prenatal care visits are very important. Some research suggests that a genital herpes infection may lead to miscarriage or make it more likely to deliver your baby too early. You can pass herpes to your unborn child before birth, but it more commonly passes during delivery. This can lead to a deadly infection in your baby called neonatal herpes. It is important that you avoid getting genital herpes during pregnancy. And further down the page it warns, and this points to why people who are diagnosed with herpes might be depressed and anxious. And it has nothing to do with stigma or telling other people to be nicer. Can I still have sex if I have herpes? If you have herpes, you should talk to your sex partners, plural, about their risk. Using condoms may help lower this risk, but it will not get rid of the risk completely. Well, it's actually about a 30% lower risk only, according to a 2009 study in the Archives of Internal Medicine. Having sores or other symptoms of herpes can increase your risk of spreading the disease. Even if you do not have any symptoms, you can still infect your sex partners. You may have concerns about how genital herpes will impact your health, sex life, and relationships. And there it is. The concern, the anxiety, the depression, and even the suicide ideation is because of the impact on a person's own life. They've had a devastating diagnosis. Maybe it's not about the stigma. So, what is the campaign here in New Zealand? Well, it's Make New Zealand the best place in the world to have herpes. Yep, I kid you not. Let's make New Zealand the capital of the world for STDs. Perhaps we could add AIDS and gonorrhea to the list. Let's give that a clap as well. And syphilis. Oh wait, hang on. We seem to be already doing well at that. This recent Stuff article says that there was a 41% increase in the cases of syphilis in Aotearoa in the second half of last year, sparking concerns about the potential life-threatening impact on unborn babies. Yes, unborn babies are human beings. There was also a spike in cases amongst men who have sex with women, but ESR's data shows the rise in cases in late 2022 was largely amongst men, with men who have sex with men recording an 81% increase. The Ministry of Health said eliminating syphilis is one of the key aims of the Syphilis Action Plan. Yes, we have a syphilis action plan. Other goals include arresting the recent increases, eliminating ethnic inequities, discriminates, and reducing suffering and poor health outcomes for people infected with syphilis. It said, repeat after me, it's not their fault. It's because of white people and colonisation. Well, I think I put that in, but they probably want to say that. Anyway, back to herpes, and here is the this is the promo for New Zealand being the best place in the world to have herpes. You might recognise the person.
Hello, I'm Sir Graham Henry. Once upon a time, the world wanted to be New Zealand. We had the cup, the clean green image, the Earth's sexiest accent. Everyone wanted a slice of our pie. But now look at us. Our sheep to human ratio is embarrassingly low, and pies are pushing $7. Our national pride is somewhat less than outstanding. In other words, it's all ruck and no ball. We need something new to be proud of, something big and brave to put us back on the map. It's time for New Zealand to become the best place in the world to have herpes. Four out of 5 Kiwis are counting on us because no other country is strong enough to tackle this issue.
Okay, let's leave it there because we're going to do the course together. But I checked the website to find out where the 30% of all Kiwis diagnosed with herpes virus experience depressive or suicidal thoughts. The source of that statistic was the New Zealand Herpes Foundation. Okay, solid stuff. You know, do you feel depressed that you have an STD? Yep. Tick. Okay, so first lesson, what is herpes? And this is with Sir Ashley Bloomfield. So let's look forward to some good health advice.
Kia ora koutou katoa. I'm Dr. Sir Ashley Bloomfield, former Director General of Health. Now, I bloody hate viruses. But today I'll be talking about a largely medically insignificant one. Herpes. This is the herpes simplex virus. Outside Kirikiriroa Hamilton, the virus is usually found in only 2 locations, on your face or on your bits. Herpes is spread through skin-to-skin contact. Face to bits, face to face, bits to face, or bits to bits. Most of the time, herpes is dormant, but every now and then it flares up. These flare-ups may well cause small blisters or ulcers, commonly known as cold sores. Think about it like your weird cousin coming to stay. It's not ideal and it may be painful, but they'll be gone after a few days and life will return to normal. Uniting against these viruses isn't easy, but together we can eliminate the stigma and become world-leading again. This goes out to everyone with herpes. You are not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. You can lead a normal, healthy life. Healthy life. Healthy life. You are worthy of intimacy and love. I think.
Okay, that wasn't only weird, it was sort of creepy as well. But anyway, good that there was positive medical advice about avoiding a sexually transmitted disease. You know, not having multiple sex partners, being monogamous, don't rely on condoms because they're not 100% effective at preventing the spread of the virus. You know, some good advice from the doctor. No, I didn't see any of that good advice either. Then there's a session on how common is herpes with Anne Batley-Burton. Yeah, I hadn't heard of her either. Apparently she's on Real Housewives of Auckland. Yeah, I hadn't heard of that either.
Here are some tips for proper herpes hosting etiquette. A herpes diagnosis isn't a catastrophe, as many of your guests will know, even if they won't discuss it over drinks. Discussing herpes with grace and candour removes the stigma. Just refrain from speaking between mouthfuls. Having herpes is common, but if you are in search of something with a touch of rarity, might I suggest the Champagne 1995 Comte Audouin de Dampierre Cuvée de Prestige Grand Cru Ficelé? Following this simple guide will help give New Zealand an international reputation for the finest herpes experience in the world. Isn't that right, Tracy? Now, if you'll excuse me, I must tend to my pussies.
Okay. I mean, is this supposed to be taken seriously? Oh, well, that's what Radio New Zealand and the New Zealand Herald said. Now, next is Sir Buck Shelford, and he asks, is herpes scary? Can I just remind you of what the medicine actually says? It says if you're pregnant and have genital herpes, it could lead to miscarriage, could lead to a deadly infection in your body. There's also outbreaks, blisters, painful sores that may take a week or more to heal, flu-like symptoms. Okay, so anyway, let's have a watch.
Kia ora. I'm Sir Buck Shelford, one of the toughest bastards in New Zealand. And I've been in a lot of scary situations in my lifetime. I've had my nutsack torn, my brain exposed, and even survived a full season of Celebrity Treasure Island. But you know what doesn't scare me? Herpes. For most people it's harmless. The first time might freak you out a bit, but believe me, it could be worse. If it flares up again, there are plenty of ways to sort it out. So don't let a little drama stop you from playing. I can name a bunch of stuff scarier than herpes, like calling your teacher mum, or running out of toilet paper mid-poo, or that creepy fucking doll over there. Holy shit. So stop being scared of herpes. It's holding us back as a nation. In order to become the best place in the world to have herpes, we need to give fear the boot.
Yeah, don't let it stopping you having fun. Are you having fun, team? Lesson 4 out of 5. We're just about there, thank goodness. How not to make herpes awkward. With some comedian, Angela Dravid, is that how you say it? And remember, STDs is just a skin condition, apparently.
Oh, hello. I'm comedian Angela Dravid, and I make things awkward. But today, I'm making something not awkward. Herpes chat. Did you know 80% of us Kiwis have herpes? But nobody talks about it. Hello? Hello? There's no one there, because nobody talks about it. Like when a friend tells you they have herpes, don't react like this. Just be chill and supportive. Let's make herpes chat normal chat. It's just a skin condition. Oh, you had the flu? That's a virus, like herpes. There's A for alpha, C for Charlie, H for herpes. Hello, how are your herpes today? They're good. They send their regards. See, that wasn't awkward at all. So come on, New Zealand, let's talk about herpes like it's no big deal. Oh, this is nice. Because it's only weird if we make it weird.
It's only weird if we make it weird. It's not the whole campaign that's weird. It's not even JD Vance that's weird. It's just weird if we're a bit concerned about getting an STD. And finally, thank goodness, someone called Miyamoto, How to Fight Stigma. Because remember, the stigma is worse than the virus. Yes, the stigma is worse than the painful sores, blisters, and swollen glands.
Kia ora, I'm Mia, the Night Miyamoto, undefeated world champion, and I'm here to show you how to give herpes stigma the because there's a bunch of bullshit there, which is worse than the virus itself. Stigma is going to try hit you from all sides, so we need to be ready to knock it out. Let's do this.
People get herpes because they sleep around.
No, anyone can get herpes.
Having herpes means you're dirty.
It's just a virus, like chickenpox.
Herpes is so gross.
Your inclination to laugh about a common skin condition indicates belief rooted in fear, ignorance, immaturity, sexual shame, a narrow mind, and possibly a low IQ.
Oh, wow. That was real painful, wasn't it? What's more painful is that you paid for this campaign. Yep, it's funded by Te Whatu Ora. In other words, you. Now, they also have this youth-focused educational video on their website. Please be warned, it is offensive, but it really highlights what this campaign is about. It's about promoting, normalising, destigmatising sexual promiscuity. Have a watch.
Did you know that cold sores are mouth herpes?
What? Lies.
No.
Pastia. Fact, okay? Cold sores are a type of herpes. Oh, bro. What? Wait a minute. Didn't you give Jared a blowy? Yeah.
Wait. Does that mean mouth herpes plus oral sex equals genital herpes?
Read it.
Guys, up to 40% of genital herpes start with a cold sore.
Oh, so you could have given Jared herpes. Looks like no more blowies for you.
Only if I have a cold sore.
Oh, right.
Look guys, it says here, herpes is common, manageable, and treatable. So I don't think there's much to worry about.
Sweet.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Remember what Bloomfield said in the campaign? Remember that he said the shame associated with herpes could have a profound psychological impact on many and leave people feeling isolated. The problem is not the people, the problem is the virus. And we need to focus on the virus rather than making people feel bad about the fact they've had an infection, he says. 30% of all Kiwis diagnosed experience depressive or suicidal thoughts. Yep, it's your fault. But on their own website, it says this: getting through a new diagnosis. It is normal to feel upset and distressed, as with any new diagnosis of a medical condition. Remember that herpes doesn't discriminate, well, it does actually, on sexual partners, and you don't need to blame yourself for what is actually a very common condition. Well, as we know, it does discriminate. The CDC says that the infection is more common, the genital herpes is common in women and in people who have had more than 5 sexual partners. You know, the worst part about this dumb, misleading campaign, except for the marketing, which is also embarrassing, is that it fails to tell the truth. You'll have noticed that there's no mention of the nasty stuff that I quoted from the CDC and Johns Hopkins. This campaign is just dumb fluff. Getting herpes is just like getting a zit. Now, Dr. Miriam Grossman, who is the one decent medical professional with common sense on the What is a Woman documentary by Daily Wire, wrote a report for us 10 years ago on the misleading nature of sex education in schools around the concept of safe sex. And I just want to read an extract just to conclude this McBLOG because it's important. It says this: sexuality educators do not describe the complex psychological issues that often follow the diagnosis of a sexually transmitted infection. Research indicates, however, that they can be substantial, especially when the infection is with an incurable virus such as HPV or herpes. Our research indicates that episodic outbreaks of herpes, most people have at least 3 to 4 outbreaks per year, then can cause people to feel less sexually desirable and reduce their enjoyment and frequency of sexual contact. It can cause a major negative impact on quality of life, greater than the impact of asthma or rheumatoid arthritis. And she concludes, and this is key, and this is primarily for younger people, but remember that this atrocious and dumb campaign will reach young people. Is every young person going to postpone sex? Of course not, but we are still obligated to inform them of the grave risks they face, to teach them biological truths about their physical and emotional vulnerabilities, to warn them in a no-nonsense manner about avoiding high-risk behaviours, and to encourage the higher standard. That is what we do in every other area of healthcare. But when it comes to sexuality, kids are being taught that they can play with fire. And the waiting rooms of doctors and therapists are filled with people who have been burned inside and out. We must make teens understand that sex is a very serious matter and that a single encounter can change their lives forever. We must provide students with an ideal to strive for, one that offers them the healthiest option physically and emotionally. The healthiest ideal is to postpone sexual activity until adulthood and ideally until marriage. Of course, students must be told it's not easily achieved. Reaching that ideal isn't easy, of course, and this fact should be acknowledged. But just as in other areas of education, where the ideal is presented as the point of excellence towards which we encourage young people to strive, the same holds true with our sexual activity and choices. The rates of disease and distress are soaring. The stakes are high. Will we respond to the crisis with honesty, authority, and courage? That is the question. Now, just finally, one other name mentioned in the campaign, but we didn't see a video from her, and it was Sue Bagshaw, a champion of abortion and of puberty blockers and transing the children. She wrongly argues that puberty blockers are reversible, they're the lifesavers. In fact, 2 years ago, Otago University removed claims by Dame Sue Bagshaw in regard to bone density recovery after puberty blockers from its website due to inaccuracies. But she argues that kids know exactly what they want. And I'll link to an earlier McBLOG covering her views and her review of puberty blockers. But in summary, this is yet another campaign about removing the natural consequences and stigma associated with sexually related diseases and outcomes. It's a health campaign which doesn't tell the inconvenient truths. And health advice should always be based on biological truth, prevention and treatment, not hurty feelings. If I was Sir Graham Henry or Sir Buck Shelford, I'd be asking for my money back.